When I saw this video over on Patrick Tomaso's channel with the S1 Mark II in the thumbnail with the word yawn, I knew I had to watch it. And I have watched through it once before, but I thought it was worth sharing some of my thoughts because I think Patrick does a good job outlining some very fair points, but there's also a lot that I think I just slightly disagree with. And I think that's where videos like this are valuable, where we can share our thoughts, our ideas, our opinions, our perspectives, and maybe reading in between all those lines, you find a little bit of insight, you find a little bit of value in the way you approach your own projects. I haven't really followed Patrick for all that long. I think I've maybe only seen one or two of his other videos. You can definitely go check them out. I'll put a link in the description if you want to watch it without my commentary, because that's certainly a valid option as well. If you don't like me, you don't like the sound of my voice, you don't like my videos, don't watch them. This will probably be at least twice as long, and Patrick's video is only 7 or 8 minutes, so you can go give it a watch over there if you want the shortened, abbreviated version, but we're going to watch it, and this is going to be probably a little bit long. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind-the-scenes lessons and insights on the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold.
I want to briefly talk about something I like to call the perfect camera paradox.
All I want is the perfect camera. You know it, I know it. We all just want that perfect camera.
Probably since the dawn of imaging, since the first camera was ever invented, every single person has been seeking the perfect camera. And most people have an individual list of items that would constitute a perfect camera. Maybe it's the IBIS, it's the autofocus, the frame rates, the codecs, a whole bunch of stuff that you think you need for the perfect camera. And this list that we have, we usually use it as an excuse for the reasons why the things that we make are not as good as we wish those things were. It is so much easier.
Okay, so this is an interesting take, the idea that you can't make what you want to make as good as you want to make it because you don't have the perfect camera. If only I had these missing ingredients, then I would make good content. I'd be able to make my film. I'd be able to make my short, my documentary, my music video, whatever. But this is kind of interesting in the way that he's framing this, because the idea of a perfect camera, I think, has always existed on paper, and that definition changes over time. But at any point in time, you could have pretty clearly written down all the specs based off of the current circumstances, the technology of the time, written them all down, and had any company actually merged all those things together, we would have, at that point in time, called it the perfect camera. Except what's funny, I guess, is that no company was able to actually achieve that. And I don't know why that is. Because yes, everyone's opinions, perspectives, needs are slightly different. So there is going to be the right tool for the job, the right tool for the person. But also, if you go back to the DSLR days, there was a lot of critique and criticism from all those cameras, whether it was Lumix or Sony or Canon or Nikon, and had they all just been kind of on the same page, because that's what we were doing. We're all picking and choosing. We want this feature from this camera with this feature from this camera, and we're kind of creating this hypothetical perfect camera in our minds. And had someone actually made it, we all would have agreed it was the perfect camera. I don't think any of that has to do with excusing the work we're doing. It's just envisioning a wish list that we put out there for these brands to recognize, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, if you get the autofocus, if you get this, that's going to be the perfect camera, and I'm going to be able to do anything. But that's also not excusing the work that I'm currently doing, saying that, you know, what I'm doing isn't good enough because I don't have these features. That's not really how I've seen the perfect camera described or talked about. It's more like this hypothetical wish list. If all these companies got together, made a baby camera together, that would be the perfect camera. And ironically, it's interesting, we're headed towards a world where maybe that's sort of starting to happen, where Nikon is scooping up Red, or Lumix, Panasonic is now working with Arri or Ari, however you like to say it, creating these blends between brands, taking the best of both worlds. And even phase detect autofocus, what was Sony's most amazing feature for the longest time, is now becoming more or less universalized across all the brands. And I think that's all we want in a perfect camera. So that definition changes over time as we're looking at sensor technology. Now we've got partially stacked sensors or fully stacked sensors, or maybe at one point in time, Super 35 was more than enough, but then full frame became an easy, affordable standard for everybody. And so maybe that's now, quote unquote, part of our perfect camera. But that definition changes over time. However, I think it's very definable. Right now, I could write down all the things that I think would make a perfect camera, and none of it is impossible, out of reach, nor does any of that hypothetical camera affect the work that I'm currently doing. It's more or less just a wish list of what we all kind of collectively know is possible in some regard just by combining features from multiple brands is really all I think the perfect camera is.
Easier to say the camera sucks rather than you suck, because nobody really wants to look in the mirror. Nobody wants to say, hey, maybe I have to do some hard work here. Maybe I have to try. Maybe I got to practice. Maybe I got to learn things.
So this phenomenon is true, but I don't think it has to do with the perfect camera. I think it has to do a lot more with budget. People thinking that they need the more expensive thing to be good, to succeed. I saw this for the longest time when Red was kind of pioneering the digital space, 4K, RAW, high frame rates, all these really cool features, and people longing after a RAW codec or 4K as if that was going to make or break their footage. Not saying that Red was a perfect camera. That wasn't even part of the equation. It was just, I need to spend more to make something good. And that is not true. You can make the best looking stuff on the most affordable equipment. So that's a fallacy. That's a paradox. That's a myth that we can bust. None of it, I don't think, has to do with being a perfect camera. I think there are two different kind of parts of the brain, two different conversations that we're having. One being a wish list of a hypothetical camera, because we know it's all possible. We can pick and choose the features we like, put them all in one. That would be the perfect camera. And then on the other side, it's, feeling like I need to spend more, have more gear, have more equipment, have a bigger crew, more resources, more time. The needs kind of adding up, and that being the excuse or the defense why your work suffers. I didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough budget. I didn't have the right equipment. Had I only had those things, then it would have looked good. It would have sounded good. So kind of different conversations that are being crossed here. Maybe this is just how Patrick sees it, and I see it a little bit different. But generally, when I'm having conversations or when I see people talking in forums or in the comments or in YouTube videos, they're talking about two different things, and they're not really overlapping as much as I think Patrick is saying.
Maybe I got to go spend some time with other people and learn from them. No, they just want to buy something. We all do. We all just want to buy something that fixes it. Just fixes everything that's wrong with everything that we do. We just want to buy the thing that will make us good.
Yes, so that's what I'm describing. Spending money, stretching that budget to buy the thing to solve the problem, which isn't true, but that doesn't have to be a part of being a perfect camera. It's kind of different.
How many of you have wanted and then bought a camera and thought, hey, now I did it. I figured it out, guys. I got the camera that I've always been dreaming for. I've been saving up for it. I watched every single damn YouTube video about it. And now that I have it, oh, wait, I'm still a piece of shit. I bet you that's...
Sorry for the language. I don't know if that offends anyone. I think it's kind of funny and raw and real. That is the phenomenon you see with the people who spent a bunch of money buying a Red, buying an Alexa, spending all their money buying expensive Canon cinema cameras and still producing garbage. The equipment is not the talent and skill behind it. So that I agree with, but none of those are perfect cameras. I don't think, it's just a different conversation.
It sounds so familiar. You're even thinking right now, well, Patrick, I don't have the perfect camera yet, though. That's the thing. I haven't found that perfect camera. There's still things on my list. I haven't crossed off all the little check.
See, but now we're going back to the hypothetical wish list camera, the perfect camera, which is not part of that same conversation because you can't even buy the thing. So longing after expensive equipment as if it's going to make you better is different than wishing for equipment that doesn't even exist, because you can't even spend the money even if you had it.
Marks of bullshit that I need to do the thing that I want to do. Where is it? Where is it? Guess what? That camera does exist now. I have it right here in my hands. And herein lies the paradox.
Here, Patrick is calling the Lumix S1 Mark II a perfect camera, which is high praise. There's a lot of people who have shot with the S1 Mark II saying very similar things, that it's a masterpiece, that it's the best camera ever. It's the Lumix, pick whatever favorite analogy you like. I haven't personally shot with it. I haven't had one in my hands. I'm excited to get my hands on it, but he's calling this the perfect camera. So let's see how that unfolds.
I now have the perfect camera. It checks every box that I've ever wanted in a camera.
Doesn't check every box that I've ever wanted. I've been talking about internal NDs, electronic NDs, ever since I found out it was even possible with the FS5. I don't remember the first mirrorless camera with electronic NDs. I think it was the Sony FS5 or something around that time period. And ever since then, it's always been, electronic ND, electronic ND, internal ND, internal ND. Let's see it. Let's have it. Let's go. I think there's probably a video on my channel from 10 years ago, me talking about this. Maybe it's not physically possible. Maybe there's some patent preventing it. Sony has done it a handful of times. And yet I think most of us would love to see that type of technology in a hybrid. I'm going to make some more videos complaining about this more and showing you some solutions as well to internal NDs. There are some hacks, some workarounds that you can do to get it to work. But even the S1 Mark II is not my perfect camera because it doesn't have one of the most critical features that I know is possible in other cameras out there. And yet we're still waiting for it. I don't know if we're ever going to get it, but that's kind of the final piece of the puzzle for me personally before I could say anything like this is the perfect camera. I want a hybrid with internal electronic neutral density so I can go clear and I can turn it on. That ability will kind of seal the deal for me as long as everything else stays up to speed, right? Autofocus, IBIS, you can't sacrifice anything. We can't we can't abandon any of that. We've got to keep the technology we have and add more to it, add more functionality, and that will be the pinnacle of camera technology for me. Maybe there's something missing that you want in particular, and that's fine. Everyone's got a different wish list to make that perfect camera. So if Patrick's saying the S1 Mark II is his perfect camera, that's great, but it's not for me, not quite yet. Very impressive, lots of cool features. Maybe I'll buy one. Good technology, but not perfect camera yet. But also, I'm not making some fantasy, oh, it's a camera that, you know, can shoot 20K and it costs $1. Like, that's fantasy land. What I'm describing is real features that do exist in other cameras out there, and yet no one has put them all into one camera.
And I'll tell you what, it has made me realize that great cameras are what we want. We don't want perfect cameras. We want great cameras. And great cameras.
So this is a curveball. The S1 Mark II is a perfect camera, but we don't want perfect cameras. Instead, we want great cameras. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Introduce a lot of friction. And if you're confused, I'm going to explain what this really means.
I'm super confused, so please explain.
Right after today's sponsor, which is audio. You make short films, videos, client work, whatever it is.
So sponsor audio, stock music.
You need good music for those projects. And audio has one of the best stock libraries.
Sponsor shout out for audio. Here, I'll let this play so you can see all the visuals, but I'm going to do not a sponsor shout out over the sponsor shout out for something that I think is a good alternative if you want to check it out. So for stock music, there's lots of services out there. Audio is the one that Patrick is highlighting here, which is great. Maybe you'll use it, maybe you don't, fine. I've been playing around with some of the AI music. Yes, AI, the big bad boogeyman that's going to take all our jobs. Oh no, Google's got VO3 coming. What are we going to do? AI can't film reality. So if you're shooting weddings or real stuff, I wouldn't be too worried. If you're shooting narrative fiction, then fine. Anyway, the AI solution is S1II. S1II, you can make the stock music that you want. So if you can't find good stock music because no one has it, go make it on S1II. You can just type in a prompt, gives you exactly what you want. I'm going to keep talking because this is just a B-roll music montage that Patrick put together. S1II, I think, is really, really cool technology. And you can hate AI, and that's fine. You can say it's taking musicians' jobs. Okay, that's fine. But there's a lot of times where I can't find or get the stock music that I actually want and need. Nothing fits the piece because no one's made it. If I have the ability to go craft that and make it myself, I'm going to do it because now I have the perfect music to match my piece. Now, let's go back to Patrick and see what he has to say about the perfect camera, the S1 Mark II.
For all intents and purposes, is everything we've ever wanted in a mirrorless camera. And I've been shooting with it for a few weeks now. I was sent to Austin to try out this camera for the launch. I was even part of a focus group years ago with a few other creators trying to explain to Lumix what we wanted. And
man, why is Lumix calling all these people? They're not calling me. I've been talking about Lumix since the GH1. You can call me jaded. You can call me jealous. You can call me... I'm really not. I actually don't really care all that much. But I do think it's... I don't know what the right word is. Lumix with the S1 Mark II, I think knew what they had because they got this into so many people's hands. I saw more videos about the S1 Mark II than I could even be watched probably in a lifetime. That's hyperbolic, that's ridiculous, but you get the point. So many people have been able to shoot with the S1 Mark II, and I think it's a great testament to the quality of the camera that almost all those people universally praise it. I think this camera is going to sell quite well. It may not be my perfect camera, but it seems to check the boxes for a lot of other people and seems to be kind of the new king of the hill, king of the ring, however you want to say it. It is the one to beat moving forward. And at some point it will be beat. Is that going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 3 years? I don't know. But every once in a while, a camera comes along that sets a new bar, a new precedent, and it's up to all the other companies to figure out what do they have to do to compete. And that's where the S1 Mark II sits currently, but its time on the throne may be short. No one knows. We'll have to just see what comes next.
In a camera, and now that we have it, it's here. This camera is fantastic. And what I've personally learned now is that when I have that perfect camera, when I have that camera that does everything I want it to do, I really don't even know what to do with it. I like to be put into situations.
That's weird to me. I think that's just like buying new equipment if you don't have a need for it. If someone just dropped the camera in your lap, like let's say you're not in the market. I'll just keep using the Red analogy, even though I got scooped up by Nikon. So I don't know how you view the company at this point in time. But for the longest time, Red was this gold standard. Everyone craved and sought after the Red cameras. They were so cool. A lot of it's marketing, a lot of it's hype. But to be fair, those cameras were and are very powerful. I will say that. But if you don't need one, if you're not working on a project that needs a Red camera and someone just drops a Red camera in your lap, you're going to scratch your head too. Like, what do I do with this? I'll go film some B-roll of people golfing. Like, what do you come up with if you don't have the need for it? Versus what I always recommend, what you buy equipment for is for the need, for the problem. The equipment, the product should be the solution to the problem you have. It should fill the need you have. There's lots of jobs where something comes up, something specific or unique, and it's a problem that you have to solve. And a lot of times products, equipment can get you there. It can give you the autofocus. It can give you, I don't know, the access, the feature that helps smooth out that production, whatever it might be. That's when you buy stuff. If you just gifted a random light, a random microphone, a random whatever, you're not going to know what to do with it because you didn't need it. You just got it. And that's kind of the problem that people find themselves in. When they buy into the hype, they buy into the marketing, they watch all the YouTube videos, they get super excited for the next new thing, they buy it, and it shows up, and oh wait, they didn't have a need for it. There was no problem. Now they have a solution without a problem, and what are you going to do with that?
Situations where I have to figure it out. I've got to work around things. This stimulates my brain. It gets me thinking more. It gets me more creative. This camera is like going to the Cheesecake Factory.
So the idea that restriction breeds creativity, I do agree with. I think Patrick is spot on here. When you have limitations, you find creative workarounds, and that's very satisfying. But also, if you're just given a camera with no purpose, no, you didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, you didn't need it, yeah, what are you going to do with it?
Where you look at the menu and there's 1,000 different things and all of them are quite good. You could probably pick anything on the menu and you'd be satisfied and happy, but you sit there paralyzed, not knowing what to do, and you just end up getting chicken fingers. Like when I pick up something like a Fuji X100, I know what it can.
So the analogy of going to Cheesecake Factory, being overwhelmed with the menu options. Yes, analysis paralysis. This happens when there's too many options. You end up not making a choice, or you feel like you can't make a choice. Sort of the same, sort of different. If you are craving something in particular that only Cheesecake Factory sells, I don't know what it would be. I don't go to Cheesecake Factory. Any restaurant, if you're craving something in particular and you go there with the purpose of filling that need, solving that problem. Hey, I'm craving this. You go in, you know exactly what you're going to buy. That is how the products work. It doesn't matter that there's 1,000 options if you're buying it for the 1 or 2 features that you absolutely do need. The one I would say for the S1 Mark II is the full frame open gate 60. That is something we haven't had. We lost the full sensor. It was micro four thirds, so not full frame, but full sensor open gate 60 was last seen, I think, on the GH5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the GH5, you can do that. Granted, it's 8-bit. I think it's 420. It's not optimized. It's not ideal. So maybe you're not shooting in a log profile. There's some compromises to it, but you can get the full sensor 60 frames a second, micro four thirds. The S1 Mark II gives you full sensor, full frame, 60 frames a second. And that is brand spanking new. And that's something I absolutely would use as a feature because I have lots of projects where I'm constantly shooting 60 frames. even 16 by 9 4K. And on something like the S5 Mark II, we all know that the 60 frames per second is a crop, APS-C, Super 35. So you're changing your field of view for that mode. Even on something like the Lumix GH7 Micro Four Thirds, to shoot open gate 60, it's also a crop. So to go cropless, open gate, full sensor 60 is something that I would use because I'm constantly using it currently in its cropped version. To have it uncropped is, I think, a huge advantage for me personally. So that's something on the camera that I can point out as a specific feature. There's a few others on the S1 Mark II, but that's one in particular that I can point to and say, oh, I could actually use that and it would solve a problem.
Can't do. And then I work around those things, and I find it incredibly interesting because I'm stuck in a certain way of shooting, a way that I enjoy, and I have fun with it. But I'm not going to use that camera for this talking head setup. I'm not going to use that camera for a documentary. I won't use it to shoot a movie. The X100 fits a very narrow niche, and in that niche, it is incredible. Whereas this Lumix S1II could fit into pretty much every niche, aside from being a travel camera because it's big and bulky. But every feature, every codec, open.
This all sounds awesome. It can serve any purpose, any function. And that to me is the beauty of hybrid content creation, video production, filmmaking, photography, wrap it all up in one. That's why I called the channel Tographer, because it's not photographer, it's not cinematographer, it's a little bit of both. It's not videography. It's not just content creation, it's all of the above. And having one tool that can do all of that, check all those boxes without restriction, that sounds amazing. That is the perfect camera. That's what most of us are after because it's one set of memory cards, it's one set of batteries, it's one set of lenses. You don't have to, Frankenstein cobble together 3 different cameras with 3 different lens systems, 3 different types of batteries, 3 different styles of memory cards just to make what you need to make. If you can do more with less, that is weight off my shoulders. That's weight off my back. I don't have to worry about all the pieces and how they all cobble together. I remember years ago shooting with the Blackmagic Ursa Mini and having to bring a photography camera because I'm not going to use the Ursa Mini for photography. It just doesn't make sense. So bringing a 5D Mark IV, for example, having 2 cameras, 2 sets of batteries, 2 sets of lenses. Well, granted, they're both EF mounts, so that's a little bit different. But even the Ursa Mini, those lenses are rendered different because it's Super 35, not full frame. There's all these things. We create all this baggage for ourselves as production people because we want to make the best. We want to achieve the best. But often that's not possible in one device, in one tool. It almost always takes a few different odds and ends over the years. That's why people make these perfect camera wish lists because they're saying, I want all of this in one. That is the point. That's the purpose. And for the longest time, and it's still this way to this day, you probably do it. You know someone who does. They're cobbling together their kit. They're piecing it together based on autofocus performance or sensor size or frame rates or all the restrictions. They're working around it, bringing more junk. If you can clear all that away, the mental relief, the freedom to be creative because of the technical perfection in the one tool is what we're all after. That's why the concept of the perfect camera exists. That wish list in one device, that's what we all want.
The color, everything about this camera is at the peak. But nothing about that makes me want to swap out my A7 IV or my FX30. They just work. They do the thing that I want them to do very well. Whereas I shit you not, I pick up a Lumix S1II and I'm like, yep, it does everything. I'm just the schmuck. Like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's that these other cameras have a little bit of me in them, right? Because I'm fixing something that is wrong with the camera. Whereas the Lumix S1II is revealing all of my flaws. Everything that's wrong with me as a creator and a filmmaker.
This is a really weird way to praise and to sell a camera. Saying you wouldn't swap out the A7 IV or the FX30 for what you consider to be the perfect camera is an interesting take. It's not one I would make. The A7 IV gets undeserved praise. I have no idea why this camera is so hyped by so many people. The A7 IV, I will repeat it again for the 100th time for the people who didn't hear in the back. It will overheat on you if you don't flip out the LCD screen. That's silly, that's foolish. It's not even recording, mind you. The A7 IV will overheat just by being on, if you're using HDMI, just by being on if you don't flip out the LCD screen. That is silly. Why are people recommending this camera? Why are they promoting it? Why are they filming YouTube videos with it? Why are they using something so prone to compromise? That's a non-starter for me. Maybe it's my one hill to die on, but the overheating drives me mad, and the amount of people who are willing to accept it because, oh, it's such a great camera, I wouldn't ever get rid of it, I wouldn't trade it in. What world are you? What planet are you on that you're going to keep the A7 IV and the FX30? Which, sure, there's a value to a budget option for the people who can't afford the higher tier thing. I am all for that. I love budget friendly solutions. The FX30, by all accounts, for most people is a great camera. So I would never say, yeah, if you got it, just ditch it for the next thing. Because if it is doing the job, fine. But the A7 IV praise drives me absolutely nuts. I would 100% sacrifice an A7 IV to get an S1 Mark II.
Maker is very apparent when I pick up an S1II. And it's something I never would have anticipated until I tried it. Do not take this as me not recommending this camera. It's a fantastic camera, but it's something we all should be thinking
It's a fantastic camera, but
about as tech progresses. The same thing with an iPhone. We all say iPhones are boring now, but there's nothing wrong with them. They're the best they've ever been. But we sit there and go, it's boring, I'm bored. It does everything I want it to do. It makes phone calls and it takes amazing pictures and video, but I want a better one. I need a better one. I need to get the better one. But once you have the better one, you're just going to keep saying that. So at a certain point, you got to be good and content with the things that you already have. And
yes, fair. Yes. But also, my caution, my pause, my hesitation here. Yes, you don't have to buy the new thing every 3 months, every 6 months, even every year. You can wait a couple life cycles. You can wait a couple generations. You don't have to rush into the new thing just because it's new. So if you are happy with the A7 IV and the FX30, fine, keep them. They get the job done. But also, the S1 Mark II is better. I would easily trade one for the other. That's different conversation. This conversation, talking about rushing to get the new thing, be careful. It is one thing to appreciate and get the value out of the gear you have, which I highly recommend. Make that gear last. I still use stuff from 10, 20 years ago. It's some parts of my life where I just have stuff that's just lasted and it's great. A lot of value out of that investment. No need to replace. It gets the job done. However, I remember coming up in the industry, and there were a lot of guys who spent a lot on gear that they never got rid of, they never upgraded, and their equipment became like dinosaur bones. It like fossilized. They were so set in stone that this is the way it's done. This is the equipment. This is the best I ever need. Anything new is just a fad or a trend or whatever. And they were kind of lost in the dust. They didn't keep up with the times. This is why I do talk about things like AI. If you're so resistant to the new progress, if you're so put your head in the sand, stick in the mud type, you're actually going to be left behind. So yes, you don't need to race to buy the next latest and greatest thing just because it's new, but also don't rest for too long on something that is clearly compromised, something like the A7 IV. Everyone loves that camera for some crazy reason. And if you're still shooting on that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, dealing with overheating, dealing with 4K 60 cropped when you're having to work around it because it's a restriction, you find that creatively liberating, I guarantee you there's going to be something better that's cheaper and that's more user-friendly because that's how technology works. So finding that balance is super important. Don't just scoff at the new stuff because it's new and say, oh, my stuff's just as good. Be willing to admit when it's not, which I think Patrick is here, and be willing to upgrade when it makes sense, when it solves that problem for you. I don't shoot on the A7 IV because I find it too compromised. But for the people who are using that camera, I think the S1 Mark II is a much clearer, more obvious, better candidate to solve the problems that I guarantee you you're having. Maybe you don't realize, but you probably do have them. And the S1 Mark II checks all of those boxes, just like Lumix has been doing for the longest time. They've always offered immense value for the cost of the camera, because that's how I try and equate it. What's the value? What am I getting out of it for the cost? Because I do love budget-friendly options. The S1 Mark II is not budget-friendly. It's not a cheap entry-level camera. So I wouldn't recommend it to someone just getting started, just dipping their toe in, who only wants to spend $800 or something like that. There's much better options than the S1 Mark II for that type of person. But also, if you're going to compare what you consider to be the best, most universal tool, something like the A7 IV, know when it's time to get off that horse and move on to the next one, because it was already kind of busted from the beginning.
I think right now, in a world where everything can do everything, we are craving stuff that can't do shit. And I really have no skin in the game anymore. I'm not here to defend these camera companies. Everyone's just trying to make money, so we're going to keep throwing stuff at the wall. And Lumix, in particular, is just going to keep throwing Hail Marys. And I feel bad that I'm still like, it's fine, it's great, but like I don't love it. Like that feels...
What? Like, that's crazy to me that you would have that experience. But again, if you don't have the need, you don't have the desire, you don't have the want, maybe you're biased a certain direction. Yeah, maybe I feel the same way about Nikon. For as much as they've done and how smart their moves have been and how great their technology is, it's still kind of like, but I know that's me. That's not the camera. That's not Nikon making something bad. That's me. So if Patrick's willing to say that, and this is on him, not the camera, then great. We're in perfect agreement. But it's as if, like, what could Lumix have done better than the S1 Mark II if you're still going to be happy with the A7 IV? That, to me, is wild.
Shitty to say, because it's like all these years I've been waiting for them to make this camera, but it feels like it's just a little bit too late at this point. And I learned...
Open gate, full sensor open gate, 60 frames, 5K. How is that too late? That's cutting edge. That's technology we're getting for the first time right now. They were slow to pick up phase detect. We've talked about this a million times before. Panasonic, Lumix, they took far too long to embrace phase detect, but they already did, and we're past that. So let's move on. Full frame also took probably far too long doing micro four thirds, taking their time, getting to full frame, but we're past that. Let's move on. Let's talk about the new features that are actually new, cutting edge, that we've never seen before. And let's not roll our eyes and, oh, who needs that? It's overrated, whatever. No, that's impressive, and you're not getting it from anyone else currently. Maybe that'll change. Maybe Sony will change. Maybe Canon and Nikon, they'll change. But none of them are doing open gate, and you can tell me it's overrated. You can tell me you don't need it, but I guarantee you that's coming from a perspective because you're shooting 16:9, and you're not realizing how much more value you could get out of your content and how much more creative you actually could be without that restriction. You think the restrictions make you creative. I'm telling you, the unlimited full sensor recording gives you way more. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to talk about it again. But open gate is more than anamorphic. It's more than horizontal and vertical. It unlocks so much that you don't even realize you're missing because you're still shooting 16:9.
To adapt and modify the way that I work in a way that actually works quite well for me with other cameras and other tools, so that now that this thing exists, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But do I need it? Not really. I want a
That is perfect. If you don't need it, then yeah, I totally get this video. But also there's people who do need it. So highlight it, praise it for what I don't know, maybe I'm being unfair in my critique, but I just think for whatever reason, Lumix always gets shafted in these types of videos where it's like, you've done all this amazing stuff, but whatever. Like what more do they have to do? What more could they pack into a camera to get someone excited if they're only ever going to be happy with an A7 IV? I just don't know how you can ever win in that scenario. Me, personally, I'm excited to see this technology advance to the point where we get an S1II, and I'm excited for what that leads us into the future, an S1H Mark II, or what competitive options we see from all these other companies. Because for as much as people will say, oh, you're biased, you're a Lumix shill, that's not true. I'm not blinded by the tools that I use. I use them for a reason and a purpose. I believe that I'm actually getting the most out of them because of the unique things that they offer. Things like open gate, things like shutter angle, things like great IBIS, etc. that Lumix has always had, plus all the great new features, phase detect, etc. I want to see Nikon do open gate. I want to see Canon do open gate. I want to see Sony do open gate so we can set a new benchmark, a new bar. And Lumix can't just be over there sleeping on the fact that they've been doing open gate for a decade. They should all be pushed when it's nothing but a praise for these companies. Oh, it's so great. The FX2, it's amazing. No. Point out their flaws, point out the ways they can be better, because that's the only way we actually get the thing better. But also don't roll your eyes and say like, whatever, who needs it? More restrictions would be good, because that's also foolish. Demand the best, demand the perfect camera, and maybe eventually we'll actually get it.
Quirky, weird box version of the S1II. Something that's not a hybrid mirrorless camera that makes me confused between whether I'm taking photos or shooting video. Give me something strange. Go after the...
This is another thing that drives me nuts, that people want these box cameras and then they don't buy them. Lumix has made box cameras before and they don't sell. So why would they keep making them? You know what sold really well for them? I don't have any insight to this other than me reading the tea leaves, but I think it's pretty obvious that the Lumix S5 Mark II sold incredibly well, better than any box camera Lumix has ever made. So if I'm over at Panasonic, if I'm working at Lumix wondering, should I keep making more of the things that don't sell, or should I make more of these awesome hybrid cameras that people seem to love? Thankfully, someone over there has some brain cells and is realizing, wow, these hybrid cameras, if we keep making them more and more powerful, maybe they'll keep selling really well and we'll actually make some money. That's good business. That's smart. You asking for something strange, like go buy the weird, the Sigma BF? Like that's a strange camera. That's weird. As a novelty, because Sigma's making all the money from the lenses, sure, go nuts, make something goofy. But if you want to run a business and be successful and make money, you have to make products that are popular. What is popular is hybrid cameras because everyone today is doing hybrid content production. No one is out there, most people do not have the luxury of just being cinematographers or just being camera operators or just being something very niche and very specific. We all kind of have to do a little bit of everything. Even if you love video and that's your passion, that's your priority, you still have to take photos for a thumbnail. You still have to take photos for an article. You still have to take photos for a billboard or a banner or wherever it's at. If your passion is photography, chances are people now are going to ask you hey, can you do some clips for social media? Can you shoot some video for Reels? Hey, can you make a TikTok? It goes both ways. You need a camera that can do both and do both well. So you're not carrying around 3 or 4 different cameras that all do something different. You're not buying one box camera that's super awkward to take with you and build it out every time you want to use it. Most people now love hybrid cameras because they can do it all without the compromises that we used to have in the past. It used to be that you could only, record 30 minutes at a time, or the cameras would overheat, or the 1080p was soft, or you couldn't even shoot 24 frames a second. It was limited to 30 frames. There's always these limitations on the hybrid cameras. The color was 420. It was only 8-bit. There wasn't a good codec. There was no, the workflow, copying the memory cards, wouldn't record continuous, whatever it was. There were so many limitations in the past. And all of those have slowly but surely faded away. And these hybrid cameras have gotten more and more and more powerful. And yeah, maybe there's a cinema camera out there that's selling features that it's 12K or 16K. It's got a super giant sensor in it. But is that what most people want these days? Or do they want the ability to take a photo just as easily as they take a video and bounce back and forth between them depending on the job, and not buying or bringing 2 or 3 different cameras on a job just to do the one job themselves? Hybrids make so much sense because of the way content is made and how it's delivered these days. Photos, videos, they're all kind of one and the same. They, stream across all these different platforms. Why limit yourself? Why do you want a box camera? How does a box camera make you better? What unique offerings does it have? And if you actually wanted it, you would have bought it. And other people would have bought it, but they didn't.
The Pixis. Go after the FX9 and FX6 and stuff. Make something funky and weird. But I really just want...
But those aren't weird cameras. And if those already exist, would I be happy if Lumix made a box camera? Yeah, sure. Go for it. Do it. But also make the hybrid. Why are we saying the hybrid, it's perfect, but it's also not good enough? Instead, it needs to be in a box. How does that change what it's offering? Maybe you prefer the form factor, but I honestly think most people don't. Most people like something they can hold in their hand if they want, or they can rig it out into a full box style kit if they want to. Best of both worlds, having that flexibility. Yeah, you might like an FX6 because of the shape of the form factor, but I think most people like the FX6 because of the inputs and the outputs and the built-in NDs. And I think most people would like to see on an FX6? Some kind of IBIS, but it doesn't have it. What does Blackmagic have? Okay, they've got these box cameras. Super cool. I've always loved Blackmagic, but they don't have phase detect autofocus, or at least they kind of do on one of their other cameras they're rolling out. I don't know. But the Pixis doesn't have good autofocus, at least at this point in time. I'm not going to take a picture with it. It doesn't have IBIS, and it doesn't have built-in NDs. They keep taking away all of the built-in functionality from these Blackmagic cameras, and I'm left with wondering, who's this for? Maybe there's one person out there who wants a box with a sensor in it, but I think a lot of us want features built into one thing in a way that's easy to use. That's why so many people want the internal NDs. It's one more feature, one more function built right in, so it's one less thing to worry about on the outside, bringing your filters, keeping them clean and smudge-free, swapping them out, etc. It's a nightmare. That's why people like the FX6 and the FX9, because of the features, not just because it's a box.
I wanted to vent a bit of my frustration with the idea of me chasing this thing that is finally here and it didn't solve anything for me. Ultimately, I do have to look in
That's my point. That's what
the mirror and say, oh, the things that I'm not good at are not because of the cameras that I'm using, because everything that I'm using already works fantastic. It's just me. It's just you. Stop chasing this pipe dream. Just get better. Get better at production design. Wear a nice colored shirt so your color grading looks better. All of this stuff are things that you can fix for very little money, and mostly it's just time and effort. Do not buy things to fix things that cannot be purchased. This camera will not do that for you. But if you're in the market for...
What? Okay, I'm a little bit lost. So you didn't have a problem that the camera solved, but instead wear a different color t-shirt. I don't get it. I'm a little lost. If you don't have a problem that needs to be solved by the S1 Mark II, I think it's because you're not looking close enough, and maybe the problems you do have. 16:9 is a limitation. Maybe you like that limitation. Maybe that's fine. Overheating is a limitation. That's a problem I would look at solving. Shooting 4K 60 cropped is a limitation. I think that is a problem worth solving. There's lots of things that add up over time that I would say these are problems we should solve, and they did solve in the S1 Mark II. So if you want to say all that's not a problem, okay, but I think it is. I think all that stuff is stuff I'd love to solve. I'd love to solve it on my Lumix camera, the S5 Mark II. 4K 60 is cropped to APS-C, Super 35. So if I ever want to shoot 4K 60, it crops in. I think that's a problem. I would like to solve it. I'm glad the S1 Mark II exists.
For a new camera, this thing is absolutely spectacular. And of course it takes great footage because everything takes great footage now. Yeah, that's the end of this rant, and
it's kind of like dismissive, super underrated. I mean, everything I've seen on the S1 Mark II, again, I haven't used it. Here I am defending a camera that I don't even own or haven't bought. But I think the way it gets talked about is just super dismissive and like, okay, yeah, like here it is, whatever. I think it's really impressive. I think we should celebrate this achievement. I think we should look at it like, wow, this is pushing things forward. Hopefully we get even better stuff in the future. Maybe you think that feeds into the whole gas phenomenon, right? People just buying stuff to buy more stuff. But I don't know how you solve that, because otherwise, okay, so what's the solution? We just, hey, when did cameras peak? Oh, it happened to be in, I don't know, when did the A7 III come out? 2020? Okay, let's just not, the FX3 came out. Guys, close up shop, go home. We don't need any more cameras after the FX3. It does everything. Why bother? People don't need more than 4K. 12 megapixels is enough. Just move on, whatever. Don't even bother. Don't make anything new. Don't make the A7 IV. Why bother? No, we want to see things move forward because they get better. And there's always people coming on board at a new point. They're young, they're picking up a camera for the first time, or maybe they're spending their money to like start their business, or they're making their business legitimate by actually buying something real and professional. There's always people coming on board. And yeah, if you've been around a while or you have gear, you have equipment, you kind of have that feeling, oh, I'm gonna cling to it. I'm gonna cherish it because I spent so much money on it. But both are valid. So when something new comes out that's better, like enjoy it, celebrate it, hype it up a little bit, because it is cool. Versus saying, oh, whatever, we don't. Why bother? Why do we need new things? Just stick with the FX3. That's good enough forever. That's just weird and wild to me that you could like have that maybe mindset about the work, about the space, about the equipment. I am first to caution everybody, don't just buy the new thing because it's new. But I would also celebrate the new things for the technical achievements. That's really cool. That's impressive. You can say both things. It's okay. You don't have to downplay and diminish the new stuff just because you personally don't want to buy it, or you think other people shouldn't buy it. Or maybe you do think they should, but you're going to say, whatever, no big deal. I don't know, strange to me.
I'm pretty sure I shot this entire video in 60 frames per second. So now I can do this. I can slow.
So if you shot it all in 60, it looks kind of choppy. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I don't know. I got really worked up there for a moment, and that's usually just playing it up, right? It's easy to get fired up over this stuff, to express yourself. Maybe you're sensitive to that. You think I'm upset. You think I'm angry. You think I hate Patrick. I don't. I think this is a perfectly fine video. He can express his opinion just like I can express mine. We can all have our look. I'll go subscribe. Let's subscribe to Patrick over here right now. So go check it out if you want. Like the decently interesting perspective. I like those. I like to disagree from time to time. I like different opinions. That's always good. But yeah, I think we should be chasing after the perfect camera. We shouldn't get the perfect camera and then say, whatever. I think I could pretty easily write down my wish list, my specs, and if any company, again, I have no allegiance or loyalty to Lumix other than I just happen to use their products because I like what they do. I use them for good reason. I'm not just a fan of Lumix for no reason. You're not a fan of Canon or Sony or Nikon for no reason. People make choices for particular reasons. Maybe it's the autofocus. Maybe it's the lenses. Maybe it's, I don't know, you like the menu. There's always good reasons for why you do what you do. Same for me. But it doesn't have to be Lumix that'll make the perfect camera. If someone actually does it and checks all those boxes that I want fulfilled, I would buy it. Because why wouldn't I? And I'd be excited to. It'd be an enthusiastic recommendation. This is an awesome camera. I've recommended the S5 Mark II because I am excited about that camera because it is so budget friendly and packs so much value into a really affordable device that I think is accessible for most people. That'll hype up. That's great, but it's still not my perfect camera. It doesn't check all the boxes. And that list does change over time. So the perfect camera could come out tomorrow and it would be the perfect camera because it's got all those boxes checked. But give it 5 years or whatever, new technology is always coming out, advances are being made. And sure enough, that it's evolving. It's an evolving list. But at any point in time, the perfect camera could be made. It's just usually not likely because these companies don't work together. They're all competitive and they double down on their unique things and try and diminish what the other ones are doing. You look at the same thing with OpenGate. Lumix has been doing that for so long. And you'll still see people say that it's overrated, you don't need it. But the moment Sony and Canon and Nikon add OpenGate, it's going to be, oh, wow, OpenGate, it's so amazing. It's the best thing ever. Like, yeah, like I told you. Yeah. I've been on that one. Same thing with autofocus. Yeah, you can manual focus, but having good autofocus is a really awesome feature. So Sony was the pioneer of that. Good, reliable video autofocus tracking, all the cool stuff they've been able to do. Excellent. Yes, let's see more of that. Across the board, let's keep pushing these things forward so we can get the most out of it. What we do now wasn't even possible 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. Shallow depth of field, yeah, whatever. But it was 1080p. There was no autofocus. There was no IBIS. Color profiles on hybrid cameras were terrible. To do what we do now, imagine being in 2025, being stuck with the technology from the 90s or the early 2000s. You just couldn't do production the way we do it today because the technology itself breeds the creativity, breeds the workflows, makes it what it is. It's a reinforcing cycle. These features coming out, pushing technology forward, makes our lives easier, faster, more affordable, more efficient. We can do more with less. We can be more creative. That's what I love about it. It's not specs for specs' sake. Oh, look, the number went up. Oh, it's a bigger number now. No, what does that unlock? What does that allow you to do that you couldn't do before? Those are the things that get me excited. The dynamic range going up like 0.5. Who cares? But hey, now I can shoot the frame rates I want without a crop. That's significant. IBIS used to be terrible and it slowly has gotten better. And now it's 0.5 stops faster or whatever, better. Okay, who cares? But that's the path we're on. It all kind of plateaus. It all evens out. The autofocus, I feel like we're getting to the same place, right? Where all these companies, the autofocus is 30% faster, 30% better. Now it's got AI. Yeah, but we're kind of plateauing in that regard. Let's see those new features brought to the table. Something like electronic NDs, maybe 32-bit float built in, maybe just another USB-C port. Maybe that's enough of a feature on some of these cameras. It certainly would help me in a lot of ways. There's plenty of times where I'd love 2 USB-C ports. but I have a camera that only has one. That's a limitation. I can work around it, but it would make my life better if there were two. Those are the things that add up over time and allow us to do things we couldn't have done before. There's no way I could work the way that I work now in 2025 with cameras from 25 years ago. I could try and approximate it, but it'd be slower. The quality would be worse. My workflow would be a nightmare, super inefficient, slow, tedious. Same thing on the software side for that matter. If I was still editing in Final Cut 7. Like, why? Does it work? Does it get the job done? Did we work with Final Cut 7 back then? Yeah. But the moment something better came along and it made sense, workflow-wise, efficiency-wise, you switch. Because that's what you do to stay relevant, to stay up to speed, to keep making, to stay with the industry. And if I can make stuff now that I couldn't have made back then, that to me is a blessing. And it puts a smile on my face every single time because I love this work. I love talking about the gear. I love talking about workflow. And I don't think I'll ever stop.